The question being answered today is, how does college life influence students' interpretation of masculinity? Let's find out more.
I've always believed that everyone should be able to express themselves any way that they wanted to without feeling like they needed to follow a certain stereotype or a certain path. And I also thought it would be really interesting to find out what other college students felt about the topic.
Masculinity to me means the actions that I undergo every day that not only define me as myself, as an individual, but also me as a man, and how it is interpreted through society.
We originally came up with this idea because we were talking about internalization in class, specifically in that instance of racism and colorism. But we decided to put it in the framework of masculinity because of its relevance in today's media and the whole topic of toxic masculinity and social media.
First of all, men have the right to express themselves without being perceived in a negative light. And if they can talk about their emotions and express it in a healthy way, it reduces the chances of them taking it out in more aggressive manners. So it really benefits society as a whole.
So one theme from the course that we're incorporating into our project is stereotypes. So we wanted to see if stereotypes about college men have been internalized by those men and by those women, which would impact how they view college men. So one thing that came to mind is Barstool Sports. So you could see that the depiction of men on Barstool Sports is very macho man, drink, kind of this hegemonic man. So we wanted to see if that impacts men and how they present themselves. And also we're interested in seeing how stereotypes can harm men. So we're incorporating positionality into our project. And we wanted to see if the context of a college campus, that positionality impacts how men interpret themselves. So that's why, as you'll see later in the video, we ask men if they're involved in any on-campus organizations or sports clubs to see if those clubs, organizations, or whatever impact how they present their masculinity.
A huge reason why many men drink alcohol is because it gives them the feeling of being in power. The author of this journal explains how men who want to feel more masculine, they love the feeling of being in power, even in reality, if it means they're not, they don't have any power at all. And alcohol satisfies this feeling of power perfectly.
Due to men's ability to express themselves in a hegemonic society, it forces them into strict roles. In response to this, men are more likely to act out in violence, and drinking culture also has a big role in that, as well as stereotypes of being a macho man and of being tough and of getting with a lot of girls, and all of that kind of has a role in promoting toxic masculinity and causing violence.
Men who reported higher levels of unhealthy alcohol use and risk-taking tendencies were more likely to report sexual aggression. So this is important to us because they also found that involvement in sports teams had the same impact on a more toxic performance of masculinity, so in endorsing rape myths and sexual violence. So this is important to us because we want to look at positionality and how these things like sports teams and binge drinking environment impact masculinity, those two things which are really prevalent on college campuses.
While all male respondents stated that they found UMass to be an accepting environment, they agree with female respondents that dominant college culture portrays masculinity in a negative, unrealistic way. Respondents involved in fraternities, a stereotypical peak example of dominant college culture's portrayal of masculinity, highlighted that there is a skewed idea within the organization of what it means to be a man. From childhood, though, they recalled being told to man up and not act like a girl. Responses regarding personal perceptions of masculinity varied from matching the dominant college culture's description to simply being comfortable in your own gender. Since going to college, they asserted that their own ideas became more accepting of all expressions of masculinity. To female survey respondents, masculinity is associated with strength, leadership, responsibility, confidence, and a lack of emotion. These characteristics have been exhibited in their experience through athleticism, most notably in co-ed athletic clubs, aggression, or condescension. They believe dominant college culture defined masculinity as objectifying women, violence, and recklessness. All female respondents agreed the way masculinity has been shaped by society is toxic because of its repressive attitude towards emotion and, in turn, encouragement of violence as an outlet. They also all agreed that women aid in perpetuating this.
So firstly, we found that the psychosocialization is definitely real and relevant. We found that most people cited learning about what it means to be a man from their family, from their dads in particular, which is definitely interesting. We also found a common theme that if you want to be a man, then you can't show emotion. So the suppression of emotion that dominant ideologies about men perpetuates and reinforces this. So also another theme was that men must assert power in order to be masculine and to be a real man. So this came up in regards to on-campus clubs and sports and also in relationships. So one respondent mentioned that you must be assertive in your relationship to be a man. And then many people mentioned the outing club at UMass as a place of sort of like a breeding space for toxic masculinity, and also club wrestling was an interesting place where we found masculinity to be really fragile. Most men that we interviewed claimed to be comfortable in their own skin at UMass. Also, men feel like they have to protect women in regards to getting home safe, like after a night out or something, which is again asserting that power over women and saying, you know, I have the power to make sure that you get home safe, like you don't have that ability type thing. And then also, a few respondents talked to us about their STEM classes. So we talked to a few STEM majors and how women are largely excluded and how the experience of a woman in STEM is really difficult. But one woman that we interviewed actually said that being a woman in STEM actually created a community of women because she was in an organization of society just for like women engineers. So there's a good side of that where it allows women to come together and sort of like support each other. So in conclusion to all of this, men must be powerful, tough, comfortable in themselves, you know, assert power over women, and that is what the psychosocialization has taught men to be, and that's just how they do embody masculinity on college campuses.
So, fortunately, there are many organizations that we've researched that are attempting to dismantle toxic masculinity within our society. Some that are included is Every Man, A Call to Men, Man Enough, and there's even more. But we also have a Man and Masculinity Center that's located on campus at Thoreau Hall. This center helps to promote healthy relationships for men as well as exploring healthy identities. And they have different workshops such as creating healthy masculinities and active bystander training to create a safe environment for everyone to express themselves.
We kept finding that men learn about masculinity from their fathers through childhood. That if parents started to allow and accept their children to express themselves as they choose instead of forcing their child to be something that they're not, it will allow their child to be much less insecure about their masculinity. In order to spread more awareness, the schools need to do a better job in informing kids about the issue and also promote the acceptance of people who don't follow the same norms and stereotypes as others. Now, even though completely solving the issue is a ways away, I do believe we are on the right path.